Good morning, we're the Call Guys. I'm David.
And I'm Jordan.
The Call Guys isn't your average real estate podcast.
Our mission is to give buyers and sellers the power of knowledge through their real estate transactions.
We do this by helping first-time homebuyers realize that there are more expenses that come with owning a home than just the loan.
We also understand there are many times move-up buyers and sellers have forgotten the process because it's been so long since their last real estate transaction.
We make the downsizing easy.
Once you get into the habit of working with us, the process becomes so smooth you won't mind to move.
We are also excited to share with you what all the Midlands has to offer.
This is the second part of a two-part series with Billy Chastain. Enjoy.
Not only are people now using the islands, but they're also people have been wanting to use the lake water as drinking water. Are there any restrictions that they need to follow?
Well, you have to have a permit to draw water out of Lake Murray, and that's another checkbox on our application. You can apply for water removal. Now, it's designed to do irrigating.
Yes.
Is what it's designed to do. I've heard, I haven't personally seen it, but I've heard there are some people that use that water removal for drinking water.
Yes.
It's not really something that I get into because it would, I'd have to really infringe on the back, off of our property to see. But I can just tell you, we do permit water removal for irrigation.
Sure.
So what's done, I don't know what's going across the lake, but that's what the water removal is designed to do.
Okay.
So
who monitors the recreation on the lake these days?
well, I've got a maintenance crew that's responsible for maintaining all the boat ramps.
Yeah.
And our two big sites on the Lake Murray Dam on each side. But we work very closely with DNR and the sheriff's departments around the lake, the 4 sheriff's departments. And there's general discussion. We don't really, when you say monitor, I can tell you how many people came in our park and paid to park on each side. On the Irmo side, you can come in before the gate open, so it's not real accurate on that. I will tell you there's been an uptick this particular year. We kind of had discussion about the gas prices, people not going in and recreating in Myrtle Beach or the beach and just deciding to stay home. So we have seen a substantial increase. We haven't really tallied all that up, but pre-COVID we're seeing numbers a little bit higher. So I will say it's a lot.
Yes.
It's a lot. Those 2 parts, especially at the dam, are packed on the weekend.
Absolutely.
It really is.
So going back to docks, some communities, they have like boat slips. How the process of getting the boat slip, not for the homeowner, but for the community, you're involved in that process, I assume, or how does it work that they are able to have that many slips?
Sure.
With less water?
Generally, a developer has purchased this property and wants to have as much access to the lake as they can. That's going to add value to the lots there. So in a lot of cases, you've got local marinas that interior a lot of people can have their boat in a slip, and that's really we work with the Corps of Engineers on we consider those commercial facilities.
Yes.
So we work with them on it and evaluate the area they have, and before any construction or anything, we come up with a development plan with that developer and let him know, hey, this lot can have a dock, they can have a shared dock, no dock, and then you can have ABC slips depending on how much room they have. As far as we've got to take everything into consideration with navigation, and there's rules about how much distance you can be across a cove, no more than a third in a lot of cases, that type of stuff. And we work with the developer on that, and we have drawings and plans, and then we typically issue some type of documentation, and it's kind of like the Bible. Once that development letter is issued, then we don't like to modify it after that. And specifically, if we deny a dock, we don't ever change that, because it wouldn't be fair if you purchased a lot and you couldn't have a dock, and then you sold it for A, and then you bought it, and all of a sudden you petition and you know Billy and we give you a dock, you wouldn't like that too much. So that's kind of when we document that they can't, that they're denied, we don't allow a dock to be built in there. But we work very closely with those developers, and each site's different depending on the sites, and we have limits on the number we can maximize, and we want to work with the community too and make sure it doesn't infringe on their access and enjoyment of the lake too.
So who monitors what's going on under the lake? What, like, the amount of quote fish that may be under the lake? Are y'all involved in maintaining that so that people can go and fish and recreate in that way, or is it just DNR that does
DNR is obviously in charge of the fish basically.
Yes, sir.
We have to maintain some levels in the lower salute as far as oxygen levels go, to make sure we don't have inadequate amounts that fish can't make it. And we have minimum flows that we have to abide by to keep the water flowing at a minimum for fish. We do have an environmental group that does some studies on fish, goes out and does their shock, and they can see what size the fish are and all that. I know we do a good bit of that in the river.
Yes.
And then we do a little bit in Lake Murray, but not as much as we do in the river as far as the downflow. I know you had asked me before a little bit how we monitor the water flow and intake.
Yes, sir.
Lake Greenwood's got a dam. It's Buzzard's Roost. And depending on how much they let out, obviously it's flowing into Lake Murray. So we monitor that constantly. And if they ever open up their spill gates, which they do a good bit, then we know we have to deal with that water accordingly.
Yes, sir.
Along with whatever water flow from rain and runoff that we have. And we've got engineers that monitor that very closely, and do a very good job on when we need to let water out and produce power and when we don't.
Yes.
And they do an outstanding job doing that. But it's pretty complicated on the how many cubic feet of water are coming down compared to what we've got and how much rain. It's a challenge.
Yes,
but they really do a good job.
So what does that team look like? Like, how many people are involved in that, and where are they located?
Well, our team is located here in Columbia.
Okay.
And there's a chief dam officer that's got some staff under him, not very many, but that work under him that help. They get together and work with those numbers on exactly how much we need to, and it changes rapidly. You can imagine, we get one thunderstorm and it really could dump a lot of water. So that flow changes a lot. It does. Because we don't really want the lake to get up toward that 360. We just don't want that. And if we can avoid using the spill gates, we do. We want to use them a couple of times since 1969. There's only been a few times that we've ever had to even use it.
Yes.
Because of that engineering and that study of that intake flow and all that. They've just done such a great job. So.
Amazing.
So for people on the lake who are wanting to keep in the loop of what's happening, is there anything they should be following, or how can they stay in contact to know what's happening?
Well, stuff like this is great.
Yes.
And I've offered and many times spoke to real estate companies. I certainly want to get out into the public and communicate, because again, I'd rather people know up front than wonder if something's a certain way. And there's a lot of rules, let me tell you. We have a lot of rules that have to be followed around this lake. And I'm open for anything, but we do some public service announcements. We do put those out at times. We just put one out about the lower end of the lake, the 350 this year. And we try to work with the marinas especially, because they have a lot to do when the water drops that far. They have to move their docks out and get boats out of the water because they may be on land and that type stuff. So, and then it's just, general conversation we have with people. And my office manager, her phone never stopped ringing. I can promise you.
I can imagine.
Whether it's somebody calling in a complaint, or calling in just asking, what's the water levels gonna be and that type thing. Another thing that we handle, I wanna get it out there, and it's a challenge. We cut many hundreds of trees, hazardous trees, around Lake Murray. And I've got one guy that coordinates that.
Yes, sir.
And so he goes out when we get these calls and prioritizes them.
Yes, sir.
And in certain circumstances, we may have, in one thunderstorm, we may have 40 calls where a tree's fallen or leaning
Yeah.
that we've got to address and evaluate. And the more hazardous it is, obviously, when we get our contracted tree crew, that's where we're gonna go.
Yeah.
So I just wanna tell the people that if you don't have a high hazardous tree, it may be weeks and weeks before we actually get out there and take care of that tree.
If they get into contact with you, are they allowed to be the ones to take care of the tree? Or does it have to be-
In some circumstances, we will give them permission if it's a questionable tree, or, know we're gonna be back out there in a year or something, we would let the homeowner
Yes, sir.
potentially cut some trees on permission with us. Or we may say that leaning pine tree, plant 2 hardwood trees, and you can cut it down, but plant 2 hardwood trees instead. I do want to talk a little bit about the drawdown, a little bit, and why we do it.
Sure.
People think it's just for dock repair and all that, but it's really not. It's really to deal with nuisance vegetation,
Yes, sir.
to include weeds. Some summers more than others, there are more nuisance weeds. For whatever reason, the weather dictates that, and the temperature and all that. But what it allows is, for that, where the sun can get into this vegetation and the shallow part, it kills off a lot of that nuisance vegetation. And sediments that are on the bottom, it allows those to wash out
Yes, sir.
too. So, and in the meantime, it allows people to, if they want to work on their dock, it does allow them access with not having to be in water in a lot of cases. So it's a double thing, but it's really to deal with that nuisance
Yeah.
weed in the sediment that makes the water quality a little better, to get it off the shoreline. So anyway, I just wanted to bring that up.
And you'll start that drawdown, you said
October.
in October.
Right.
And when do y'all start kind of filling the lake back up?
We'll typically start bringing it back up after January.
After January.
And again, that could happen depending on how much rain we get.
Sure.
It could happen very fast. Last year, it came up pretty fast. We got a bunch of rain right when we started bringing it up, and a lot of people were complaining because they were in the middle of a dock repair.
Yeah.
And wasn't anticipating it. All I can say, Mother Nature works in strange ways. And that's why I'm a little gray in some things that we talk about, as far as when we can permit a dock, or, when we can do this or that, is, that we've got to rely on a little bit of Mother Nature on that too, so.
Sure, and a lot of people, use social media these days. Can folks find information on the lake on social media? Do y'all have your
Well,
own?
there's a lot of people that post stuff
Yes.
around the lake, and there's the Lake Murray Association has a pretty big following, and we go speak there. That hits a lot of people around the lake every year, where we can go and allow them in a forum type to ask us questions, and we give a little bit of a presentation on new stuff that might be coming up and stuff like that. We don't really, like I said, we do post stuff as it comes along, but there's not really that one place. But you can certainly, if you seek it, Lake Murray's in the news, I can tell you.
Yeah.
It really is. So,
Awesome.
you can always call our office anytime. Like I said, I welcome that. We would much rather talk to you and have conversation about what you can and can't do and what's expected than it be a surprise to you or us. Because that doesn't win for anybody. So, anyway.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for joining
Absolutely, I
us.
enjoyed it.
Yes.
Hope I can come back sometime. That'd be good.
Love to have you back. People always have more questions
Sure.
about the lake. So thank you, Bill.
You know
We
it.
appreciate your time.
All right, thank y'all.